Hello and welcome to the Film Pulse Podcast. This is episode number 384. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today, we got Kevin Rakeshaw. Hey, Kevin.
Hi.
How's it going? All right. Yeah,
Whatever.
I feel you. This week on the show, we'll be taking a look at Miranda July's Kajillionaire, along with some of what we're watching on the watch list, and new releases on VOD and Blu-ray. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Please remember to review us on iTunes if you get a moment. That would be super helpful. Just one bit of housekeeping to go over before we get into the review. There's not going to be an episode of the regular podcast next week as we prepare for the Halloween specials. So they're coming, both the weekly episode and the Say by the 90s. We will be doing some Halloween fun stuff. I don't think I want to divulge the themes yet.
All right.
Let's get into our review this week. We're talking about Kajillionaire. This is written and directed by Miranda July. Stars Evan Rachel Wood, Gina Rodriguez, Deborah Winger, Richard Jenkins. I have a synopsis here. A woman's life is turned upside down when her criminal parents invite an outsider to join them on a major heist they're planning.
This is one of the interesting things about this movie is how they kept referring to things as heists.
Yeah, like
None of them were. They're cons. They're very small cons that are poorly thought out.
I don't even know. I mean, like some of the stuff I'm not even sure is necessarily a con. It's just stealing. It's just theft.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just fraud. It's fraud and stealing.
All right, Kevin. So what did you think about Kajillionaire?
I did not like it. I tried to keep an open mind early on. It had a little bit of this like offbeat comedy, which of course is expected with the Miranda July movie. So like it had enough of that in the beginning. I think mostly on the strength of Richard Jenkins. Anytime you have him doing kind of like offbeat comedy type deal, I'm on board. But this just it just kept going, and then just the quirk was just really annoying because it felt offensive in this movie and just ultimately pointless. And I really didn't like almost any of it. There's not a whole much, or a whole lot, and a lot of it just didn't make sense to me. Not in the sense of like the narrative didn't make sense, but just the motivations. Like Gina Rodriguez's character Melanie,
Right?
Like I don't understand why she's doing any of this.
I'm actually not sure either. It felt like her sort of falling into the fold with them and like hanging out with them and going on these like scams with them and stuff. It was like just a whirlwind. Like they get off the airplane and they're all of a sudden best friends, and she's helping them commit crimes, and it just I questioned the motivations with that as well. I questioned a lot of things in this movie. Like you, I was not a big fan of it. I don't think I like actively hated it or anything. For me, it was more like just sort of a manila folder where I was just like, all right, this movie happened. To me, it was just not like I understood what the movie was getting at very early on. They make it very apparent that this is about Evan Rachel Wood's character as old Dolio and her relationship with her parents, and the fact that her parents never really showed any affection towards her. They never cared for her like a regular child, and she grew up kind of stilted. Like she didn't have the childhood that a lot of kids get, and it caused her to have a lot of issues with relationships with people. And I get that. I just feel like there wasn't really enough here to keep me hooked.
Yeah.
I
think the thing that gets me is the fact that, like you said, that it's pretty apparent early on that this is about old Dolio, who is named after a homeless man. And Miranda July trying to make that like I don't know, it's like trying to mine some deep feelings at the end of this movie with the amount of quirk that's in here. It just like that's the thing that was off-putting. Like it's just like poverty is played as a quirk. A homeless man dying of cancer is played as a quirk. Like all these things are just played as quirks. And it's just funny, and it's just irritating.
It does have this sort of almost feels like a forced amount of quirky comedy. Like there's a lot of sort of random things in here that are played up for humor that I don't know, just didn't necessarily work for me. Like like their landlord guy just always
Cried all the
crying.
time. Yeah,
Like that whole every time that they had an interaction with that, I was just like, what? I don't understand this. Why is this? This
yeah.
just
Like okay,
this
is
just
that
really isn't that
supposed to be?
funny.
Yeah, like is that supposed to be funny? The dude cries all the time.
The the only thing I thought was interesting was the fact that every day they're living in an office, and every day at specific times the suds from I don't
Bubbles
know,
Incorporated.
yeah, Bubbles Incorporated leak into the office that they're living in, and they have to clean it up every day.
Yeah, which I will give you that, and that's like an early thing too. Is when that first happens, like that just looks good visually. It's a great image. And then you have Richard Jenkins doing his thing, and you're like, okay, this is gonna be. And then the rest of it is just hey, try and laugh at these things. Like this guy wants to die in his house, and let's laugh at Richard Jenkins not knowing anything about golf, which was funny. I'll give him that. Him saying a one holer.
I didn't even remember that. Like you brought that up to me earlier, and I was just like, "What?" I mean,
I don't know.
I knew that it was something to do with this movie, but I couldn't remember what that was from.
After he's watching golf, he does a little tiny chuckle. He goes, "Oh, he just scored a one holer."
Yeah, I did like Richard Jenkins a lot in this. I thought Evan Rachel Wood gave a really good performance, but just due to the nature of her character, she just felt very flat just because she was so emotionally like shunted.
Yeah,
She was just so
and
emotionally
also
closed off. It didn't make for a very compelling watch.
yeah, and to me, she's so rooted in quirk for the sake of quirk that like she doesn't feel like a real human being at all in this movie.
Yeah,
And
she's like a female Napoleon Dynamite.
yeah, and
All the,
then on top of that, with the Gina Rodriguez things, where like she's somehow like attracted to this person and like wants to spend all of her time with her and like wants to develop this relationship and I don't know, it just didn't make sense to me.
yeah, and then the whole like I'll give you $1,500 if you call me hun thing, and then just there's just so many things that happened in this that I was just like I don't understand how that would play out. Like how is this from what we're led to believe about these characters? Why would they ever do something like that? And I mean, I understand that that was maybe to show her desperate need for love and affection that she never got, but
Yeah.
it still didn't it still didn't track for me. Apparently the voice Evan Rachel Wood's voice in this is that's actually her real voice, and for other roles that she does she changes her voice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I
Okay.
think's kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, overall I was a little bit meh on this one, unfortunately. I just didn't think there was really enough here. And then also there's like something that happens with Gina Rodriguez's character as Melanie and and Richard Jenkins and Deborah Winger's characters, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
felt like it just came out of nowhere and then didn't nothing materialized from it. It was just like a one-off thing, but it's like, are we not going to address that again? Is that we're just going to let that go? Or like, 'cause if it was to reinforce the fact that these were kind of skeezy people, like we already knew that. Like we knew that they were like stealing from old people and dying people, and we knew that they weren't good people to begin with. So just didn't think it was necessary to reinforce that, or maybe it was to show that, or maybe it was meant to show that they're just so disconnected from the real world and other human beings that they read these signals so wrong.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it just points to their overall extremely selfish nature. But it felt like a thing that was just dropped in there for the sake of being in the movie. You know, like, oh, what's another way that we can conjure up an interaction that seems completely out of left field to show that these people are extremely selfish? It's like, we already got it. Like, you're kind of beating a dead horse here.
That's really all I have to say about Kajillionaire. I was pretty excited for this, and it was definitely a disappointment for me.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's just not my cup of tea. Like, I, I honestly don't know what I'm supposed to get out of Kajillionaire.
Yeah, I don't know. Uh, we all need love and affection in our lives. We all need human
Yeah,
contact,
yeah. I guess.
I don't know.
I don't know. It didn't really. I don't know. To me, it didn't come to that end. Like, I didn't. I feel like that's what it's supposed to be, but I also that's not what I get from it. But I'm pretty sure that is the message.
Yeah. After the credits roll, just hug someone. Just hug it out. Just reinforce that bond.
Yeah, but I feel like you could have maybe done that message in a more compelling way or a more thoughtful way. This feels superficial.
Well, I mean,
and just kind of fake, like just kind of really fake.
Yeah, I mean
like like she doesn't necessarily believe that, but she feels like she should.
Some of the, I mean, maybe one of the biggest gripes I have is it's something that's on me. It's my expectations, sort of like how you were last week with expectations going into movies and finding disappointment, where I thought that there was going to be more complex, quote unquote, heists involved. Like, I thought that these were criminal masterminds cooking up these really complex schemes and executing these really, intricate plans to get money, but it's not it's not really like that. I mean, they do one thing that's like kind of clever, but even then it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah. And that's the thing that kind of annoys me a little bit from that perspective, where it's not that. It's essentially just, it's poor people trying to survive by any means necessary. And then the fact that that's played up as like a quirky thing. Like, look at these guys trying to survive. They're living in an office space and floods with suds from Bubbles Incorporated. And it's just like, okay, that's kind of rude. Seems rude.
How would you compare this to something like another movie that I know you're a big fan of, like Microhabitat, where that's sort of a comedy that is about someone living, or rather embracing the poverty that she's in.
But I feel like that movie has the thing that I think is missing between, say, a film like that and a film like this is like a deep empathy for those characters in that situation. Now, I don't know the backgrounds of both directors, but I would say that the background of a director like Microhabitat is more in tune with that situation than, say, Miranda July is.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong, but that's the feeling that I get from those movies.
Yeah, I get it.
Where this is just like Miranda July, like trying to think like, how are poor people like?
I mean, you can even look at something like Parasite and see how that plays out in, I think, a more respectful way than this movie. I think about Microhabitat a lot, actually.
Same here.
That
Yeah,
movie really stuck with me for whatever reason.
same here. I need to look up if there's a Blu-ray of that because I need to own that movie.
Yeah.
It's such a good movie. I wish more people saw it.
Yeah, it did kind of fly under the radar. All right, that's Kajillionaire. Let's go ahead and give it a score. For me, it's probably like a 4.5.
Okay, I'm like a 3.
All right. Uh, so Kajillionaire is playing in limited release right now in theaters, actually, but it's also available on VOD platforms. All right, let's talk about someone we're watching on the watch list. Kevin, I believe it's your turn this week.
Okay, I watched Blood Diner, 1987, Jackie Kong. Now, you want to talk about expectations. I had zero, right? I had zero. I've kind of heard about this movie, and judging from the poster, I kind of had this expectation going in. I'm like, okay, this looks like some sort of diner out in the middle of nowhere. Okay. But no, this sort of takes place in Hollywood. And early on, you have the point of view from this guy that just killed a bunch of people in the Glee Club, killed all these girls, and then he's like kind of stalking this house, and you're just like, oh, okay, this is going to be kind of like another knockoff Black Christmas type deal, one of those things, slasher with point of view. And okay, great. Um, but then, that guy busts through the door and it turns out that he's the uncle of these two kids. And just the amount of like ridiculous, like off-putting comedy that's in that like opening sequence kind of gives you an idea of what's about to happen. And I wasn't ready for that. And I got to say that I was extremely pleasantly surprised. I absolutely loved Blood Diner. It is ridiculous. It's got a great sense of humor. It's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fucked up. It's got an insane story. Like, this movie is so many things, and to me, it's phenomenal. I love Blood Diner, and I feel like this should be considered like a classic. Like, this should be canon. This movie's incredible.
I like Blood Diner. You can get the Vestron. This is part of the Vestron Collector series, and they released it on Blu-ray a couple years ago, maybe a year ago, and it's a really good Blu-ray. It's got they remastered it, and it's got like all kinds of bonus content.
I mean, it's insane. It's two brothers. They dig up their uncle, revive his brain, right? They're running a vegetarian diner, which seems like an odd thing in 1987. And the fact that area has like a ton of health food vegetarian places is even crazier, because one that's around the corner is a guy who has this like giant puppet thing. I don't know what the fuck he is. That he does ventriloquism with, and everyone just acts normal, like it's like a thing, like that's just a completely normal thing. And they have to kill a bunch of immoral girls, right? Loose women, and get various body parts, lungs and livers and such. And a lot of the leftovers they feed to the people at the diner. Like, it's insane. They're trying to wake up an Egyptian goddess named Sheetar. And then there's this like little tangent of him wrestling Jimmy Hitler. Like, I mean, this movie it has just about everything. It's insane.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Check out Blood Diner. Looks like it's available
on. So much fun.
Did you watch this on Hulu? Looks like it's available on Hulu.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It sure is.
Yeah. So if you don't want to pick up the Blu-ray, which again I would recommend because it does have an audio commentary with Jackie Kong, I believe, and then there's also a bunch of interviews and stuff about the making of it. So I would recommend that. But if you want to just watch the movie, then it's available on Hulu. I didn't see a whole lot this week. Only two things. The first thing I'll mention is Love and Monsters. This is directed by Michael Matthews. This is a post-apocalyptic, I'd say kid-friendly, maybe like older kids, 12, 13 maybe. uh, kind of sci-fi movie about this dude played by Dylan O'Brien who it takes place in a future where the insects have been like mutated and they are giant. So you're dealing with giant insects everywhere, but they're not just like regular creatures. They're like, because they're mutated, they're big and they have like different shit going on, different abilities and shit. Basically, it's just there's just tons of different monsters everywhere, and
Okay.
the the premise is that Dylan O'Brien's character is he's been in this underground colony for 7 years since this event occurred, and he gets into contact with his girlfriend, and she's in another colony that's like 100 miles away, and he decides that he's going to go to her colony and get back with her. And so the bulk of the movie is just him trying to get from one colony to the other while surviving various monster attacks. And it's, I gotta say, if I was a kid, I would freaking love this movie. It is a lot of fun. The dialogue is quite good. There's a lot of humor in it, and it's actually pretty funny. And there's a dog in it, so like early on, he finds a dog companion that stays with him through the whole movie, and the dog is incredible. Lots of different monsters, really creative effects work with the monsters. In fact, there's one set piece where there's this kind of like underground, I don't know what it is, but it basically it's Tremors. There's like a Tremors
Okay.
scene in this. So it kind of pulls little bits and pieces from several other movies, but it does so in sort of a good way of paying homage, and it's just a lot of fun, man. I mean, I did have some complaints. There is a lot of voiceover narration with it that doesn't always work. I probably could have done without the whole thing, without all of it, but it's fine. I mean, that's just sort of a minor gripe. Michael Rooker's in it, and he plays this kind of survivor guy who's making his way up north. And yeah, I gotta say, I had a really really good time with Love and Monsters. So I would definitely recommend checking it out. Again, it's sort of kid friendly. It's like, PG-13, but there's I think it's maybe geared a little bit for younger people, but there's still a lot of fun to be had with it.
All right.
Really, really surprised. Really surprising.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I've never even heard of this movie.
Yeah, it just came out this weekend on VOD. I think it was going to be in theaters. This was like a virtual theatrical type thing. It was like a premium VOD price. So I think it was going to be hitting theaters, and I think it would have done very well in theaters. Like the effects work is really good. Like this is a bigger budget movie. Like the CG is quite good in it, and again, the creature design is really fun and creative as well.
All right. All right. I watched a movie that also came out this weekend, and that's Garrett Bradley's Time, which is available on Amazon Prime. So last year, her short film America was one of my favorites of the year, right? So this year she comes out with Time. This is not experimental. This is pretty much straightforward doc, and it covers a woman, Fox Rich, who her and her husband robbed a bank, armed robbery. Uh, she ended up serving, I think, like 3 years in prison, and her husband is in prison for 60 years. So 60 years for robbing a bank, and which right off the bat is kind of insane. And it's pretty much just her, you know, Garrett Bradley documenting Fox Rich day to day of her trying to fight for her husband's release. She wants to, have her family back together, which obviously 60 years seems kind of insane for a prison sentence. So it touches on a number of those things. The prison industrial complex. It doesn't really discuss it, but it kind of gets to you when there's a couple of times where they talk over the phone. So you have I forget the name of the company in this documentary, but there's the prison communication companies,
Mm-hmm.
the telecom companies, and just how fucking evil they are.
Yeah.
So it's just her, fighting all these years. So it's a pretty straightforward doc in that sense. But the thing that makes it really interesting is during this time, like her getting out of jail, her up until the present, she's been like documenting her life by herself with home movies. Like, her kids growing up, her son's growing up, and always kind of talking about the work that she's doing trying to get her husband out of jail. So Garrett Bradley has taken all of those home movies and kind of weaved them in to the documentary, where everything that she shot is in black and white and all the home movies are in black and white. So it kind of gives this appearance of like formless time where you never quite know, like it's really, really interesting. It's a great documentary. It's really uplifting and hopeful because this whole movie, she's fighting and fighting and fighting. And towards the end, there's this sequence of her. She calls like every week or every couple of days to this courthouse, which they said time and time again that, oh yeah, we're going to have a decision about his release. And every time she calls, they're just like, yeah, we haven't gotten to it. We haven't really even done anything about it. Maybe next week. So she finally kind of gets pissed off and she snaps for a little bit where she's not like this polished presentation of herself. And she just kind of loses it a little bit emotionally. And then, so you're just hoping, because considering what it's like right now with COVID and everything and all the terrible shit going on, you're just like, please let this guy get out of fucking prison. Please.
This was on my radar. I do want to see this.
Yeah, Garrett Bradley, there's something that she's able to do with images where she adorns them just perfectly, like music and area, and it just to get like maximum like emotional weight to them. Like I don't know how she does it.
Definitely check that out. Again, that's called Time, and that's on Amazon Prime. The only other one that I'll mention is Totally Under Control. This is sort of segueing from what you were saying. This is Alex Gibney and Ophelia Harut-Yunyon's documentary about COVID-19. Now, I think that this is a really great. It's a great documentary. I'll say that right up front. And I think that this is a documentary that it's like one of those deals where it's like it's capturing a very specific time in our history, and I think that in the future, decades from now, people will be referencing back to this as sort of the document of how COVID-19 happened in the United States and how it got out of control. And this is obviously a story that's still developing, that we're still in the midst of it right now. So first of all, I'll say that the way that they shot the documentary was done in a very safe manner. They developed basically like this kind of portable studio setup where they would go to their subjects, like homes and offices and stuff, and interview them. And they had like these like plastic barriers set up, and the interviewer would, whether it was Alex Gibney or Ophelia, they would do the interviews via Zoom or Skype or whatever, so they were never present. So anyway, it was done in a safe way to create this documentary. But you think you know everything if you're keeping up with the COVID news and trying to parse all the information and stuff. Like, you'll know some stuff, but the fact that this breaks down it goes in chronological order, and it follows a timeline, so you can see exactly what happens on each specific week, day, month, etc. And like, it's just so much worse. It's so much worse than what I thought, as far as the criminal negligence that our government was involved with the pandemic. I mean, you hear things and you form opinions about it, but when you're presented with all of the facts in a concise way like this, it's just like, holy shit, like, people should go to jail for this.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It is a fascinating documentary, and while I did know a lot of all the information going into it, there were a lot of sort of revelations in this that I had sort of I sort of kind of thought that that's what happened, but then like this sort of confirms a lot of the preconceived notions about how this was handled and everything. So it goes all the way up almost to the present. They finished the documentary, I think, like a day or two before Trump revealed that he had COVID. So that's like the final thing that they end with. So it's very recent. And yeah, I would recommend checking it out. Again, it's called Totally Under Control. I'm sorry, I forgot to add that Suzanne Hillinger was also a co-director on this.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I can handle that right now. I think I might need to be.
It's infuriating. I mean, it is absolutely infuriating.
I can imagine, because it's infuriating living it.
Okay, let's take a look at what we have on VOD coming up this week. On the 20th, we have The Sounding. We have Expulsion. It's like maybe a sci-fi thriller. Breaking the speed of reality has its consequences.
Well, of course it does.
Mm-hmm.
Going against the laws of nature.
The speed of reality. We have Fugue. The truth will come out one way or another.
Okay.
We have How to Fix a Primary. That's a documentary. We also have Tar, based on the true legend. This is a little bit of a creature feature from the looks of it.
That sounds interesting.
Got a tar creature. In the murky depths of Los Angeles' world-famous La Brea tar pits, there lies an ancient secret. Creature that awakened by underground construction turns 5 coworkers last night together into a desperate fight for survival. We have Redwood Massacre Annihilation. He's still out there.
It sure is.
The Mothman Legacy, which is one that we mentioned last week.
Yes.
The Forests of Appalachia hide an ancient secret.
Hell yeah, it does.
The Mothman.
Gotta love him.
On the 21st, we have White Noise, which is a documentary about the alt-right. I don't think it's necessary to give them more of a voice.
Yeah, they suck. Move on.
On the 22nd, we have The Witches. This is the one with Anne Hathaway and Octavia Spencer and Stanley Tucci.
Okay.
That's going to be on HBO Max. Then on the 23rd, we have Haunting of the Mary Celeste, which looks like it might be a ghost ship type movie. Haunted ship.
Yes.
I like those.
You gotta love a good haunted ship.
Yeah. Fear Lies Beneath. Fear Lies Beneath.
Perfect vessel for haunting.
Contained. Can't get off of it that easily.
No.
Can't. We have Borat's subsequent movie film.
Yeah.
That's going to be on Amazon Prime.
I did not know that.
Yep. What are you interested in this? Are you interested in a little Borat 2?
I never watched the first Borat. Should I watch the first Borat?
I mean, I don't think it's going to be necessary to enjoy the second one. I'm pretty sure Borat has entered the pop culture zeitgeist enough at this point that you don't need to see the movie to know what Borat's all about.
Yeah, he did. Like he likes his wife. Right?
I
Like
uh
that's his deal.
I only saw the first one I think once in the theater, and I just remember it being absolutely hysterical. Just
Okay.
so funny. This one, yeah, it looks to be more the same. I like the fact that he's kind of, going after, like commenting on the pandemic and the election and all of that stuff. So I think it should be interesting.
Okay. All right.
I mean, one of the things that I find that I'm intrigued to see is how he disguises himself, because everybody knows the character Borat at this point.
You would
So
think.
you would think,
Yeah.
at least. I know that from the trailer, it looks like he does put on different disguises and stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll be checking it out. We have American Selfie, One Nation Shoots Itself. That's going to be on Showtime. It's a documentary. We have
Mhm.
Radium Girls. This is going to be a
Okay.
virtual theatrical release. This year, make your mark on history based on true events.
Just a little licking radium, putting it on your tongue.
Yep. And let's see what else. I think that is it. Yep, that's it for VOD on Blu-ray this week. We have Pumpkinhead from 1988. That's a steelbook release. It's kind of a cool looking steelbook. Adaptation from 2002 is coming out on Shout Factory. Looks like some kind of special edition on Shout Factory. Part of their Shout Selects series.
Okay.
That's a good line. A lot of good titles in that series. I have a few of them myself. Tremors, Shrieker Island.
What?
Yeah. They're still cranking out the Tremors movies. I just wish they would. I mean, I've said it before a million times. I love Tremors. It's probably one of my favorite movies. And I just want them to scrap all these sequels, pretend they never existed, and then make a good, true sequel.
Jeez. Napoleon Dynamite is in this movie.
Yeah.
John Hayden.
Yeah. Let's see. We have Killdozer from 1974. My Neighbor Totoro from 1988 looks like it's getting a steelbook edition. That's going to also be on Shout Factory. Loving the steelbook on this one. Your Name from 2016 is also getting a steelbook. Looks like a lot of sort of these big anime films are getting steelbook versions. Princess Mononoke from 1997 is also getting a steelbook. That's got a really cool cover too. Damn.
Oh man.
Really, I mean, I don't typically like steelbooks, but man, these look really nice.
Steelbooks. It seems like they're taking over. It seems like everything is a steelbook.
Yeah, they're such a waste though. Like they're such a. I mean, I guess the plastic cases are not much better, but
Yeah.
Fear No Evil and Ritual of Evil are coming out as a double pack. The Untold Story from 1993 is coming out. Remember that one? Ugh. To this day, that is one of the most disturbing movies I've ever seen in my life.
For a split second, I was like, no, I don't know what that is. And then, like, a very, very strong memory just,
Yeah.
stabbed me in my brain. And I was like, oh, God, yes, I do remember now.
That movie is
And
just.
I'm unhappy. I'm unhappy of that memory.
It's just so
God damn
brutal.
it.
That movie is really just way too extreme, even for me. Scare Package from earlier this year is coming out. I'd recommend that. It's on Shudder too, if you have Shudder. Let's see, Spree from earlier this year. Haunt. I would recommend Haunt too. I liked that quite a bit. Alone from earlier this year. There's some sort of Twilight box set coming out, the complete saga. Welcome to the Circle. It looks like there's a bunch of Christmas movies getting pushed out or re-released, including the Home Alone series, Santa Claus, Muppets, Christmas Carol, Miracle on 34th Street. Just there's a whole bunch coming out. Myth from earlier this year, Expulsion. That's pretty much it. What about Criterion's?
We got two. We have 1984's The Hit from Stephen Frears and The Gunfighter from 1950. Gregory Peck stars as Jimmy Ringo, the infamous gunslinger, looking to hang up his holsters.
Mm. Does he have one last job?
No, his reputation draws him into a cycle of violence, and he just can't seem to escape.
One of those deals. Okay, all right.
That's that's the problem. If you become too good at something, there's always going to be challengers.
Yeah,
it's just how it is.
Yeah. All right. I think that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. You can send us your questions and topics to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @filmpulsenet and @filmpulsekevin. And if you have a minute, please consider reviewing us on iTunes. We appreciate that very much. For Kevin Rakestraw, my name's Adam Patterson, and we will see you later.